CQ Field Day, CQ Field Day, N3 India Charlie, N3 India Charlie, QRZ.
My call sign is Kilo 3 Mike Zulu.
WA3IRQ.
First year I was a novice. I was in like the 11th grade, so that was like 60.
1967.
My name is Frank Stein, and my call is Whiskey 4 Tango Golf.
I was licensed in 75 in college.
Well, I'm interested in science and mathematics and radio when I was a little kid. And I remember getting, I don't know if it was a gift, but a Galena crystal and a cat whisker. And you hook earphones to it and you can move it around and you could hear the radio signals and stuff. That's how they originally, how all of that started. You're making a diode, and as a result, and I got sucked in.
Alpha Golf 6 Delta Foxtrot. So it's probably my third or fourth call since I've lapsed a couple times and took advantage to wind up being an extra a couple years ago. So I figured since I'm studying, let's just get it all done so I never have to deal with it again. And hopefully in about 8 years, I'll remember to renew.
In college, met one of my guys in the dorm, a guy named Al Cooper, WA0WEZ, Whiskey Alpha Zero, Whiskey Echo Zulu. And he was an extra, and he was very, very good on CW. And one day, it was in June, happened to be field day. We rode our bikes into the woods. He had a key, a small radio, CW only, an antenna. We ran it in the tree, and he was working contacts off of a battery, a small motorcycle battery. I was impressed.
Nerdily enough, I passed the novice exam on my 16th birthday. I went over to the fellow's house who had been teaching me Morse code and some theory, and he said, okay, let's do a warm-up, start copying, and I said, okay, now I'm ready to do the test. He said, that's okay, the test is over.
Well, when I was a kid, I was interested in electronics in general, and I had a cousin who's 6 years older who was a ham, and I thought it was pretty, I saw a little bit of what he did. I thought it was pretty neat. Unfortunately, he wasn't very interested in helping his little cousin with it, but I got involved with it. I got real interested in CW message passing. I used to do a lot of CW traffic, and I also got excited about building my own equipment. So, I did the usual. I built some Heathkits kind of things, but I also built some of my own equipment. Those were in the days when equipment was tubes, if you remember those. So I was very active in high school, to the point where my parents had to tell me to cool it because I had to get my grades where they needed to be. But I kind of faded out in college, and I actually let my license lapse in the 80s, although I kept coming to field day here with all these guys. And then back in right around 2010, maybe, something like that, I took the exam again and got relicensed and got my old call sign back as a vanity call.
Somehow shortwave radio always interested me. I remember when I was 6 years old, laying in my bed at night, listening to the Emerson transistor radio my father had. Unbeknownst to them, I was listening to it at 8 o'clock at night, and I could hear stations from Chicago, I think it was like WLS, and I was in Baltimore. And this fascinated me. I didn't really know where Chicago was, but I said, this is really cool. So I had that interest, and my father was a TV repairman, so he kind of supported my interest in electronics, and it kind of went from there. And fast forward to 1969, in Drew's honors chemistry class the first week, he said he was going to sponsor a ham radio club who wants to get their license. So Frank and I started talking about it. I went home, told my father, and he decided to get relicensed. He had been a radio tech. He was a chief in the Navy before World War II even started. he got relicensed, which gave me all the support I needed. Plus, I had a great station because he bought it. And we've had a lot of fun together. And when my father wanted a new antenna, he'd come home and say to my mother, you know, I think Gordon needs a beam. And my mother understood what was really going on, but she agreed that I probably did. So he wound up with antennas and other things that she otherwise would have never allowed, except they were for her son. So I, probably had a much better relationship with my father during those difficult teenage years in the 70s because we had ham radio as another bond, which made it a lot of fun.
Well, it's one of the exercises to get us all interested and involved. We decided to have a field day activity, the largest, most popular activity within the ham community in the U.S. area. And so the club decided to have a field day. And I believe the first time we did it was right at the high school and put antennas out there and operated. The club had a club station, an old Heathkit radio that was built, and a beam on the roof of the high school. And then from there, we did the field day there. We did a field day at a local park, I think the following year. And over time, we've grown. And most of the people here are probably not part of the original Randallstown High School Amateur Radio Club.
I think the important thing is that Field Day gives us the opportunity to practice the skills that got us, or one of the areas that got us interested in ham radio in a bigger way decades ago, and we still get to retain those skills by brushing up on them to say, okay, now how do we really put up antennas in the field? What does it really take? We've got advanced technology now because you think cell phones and the internet will always work, but I know from California, when the earthquakes hit, the cell phone service goes down really fast. So I think you still need amateur radio, even though from a day-to-day standpoint, it's been superseded by the more simple, seemingly, technologies that we carry around in our pockets.
I'm the Atlantic Division Director, and the Atlantic Division covers from Maryland, D.C. up to northern New York and the Canadian line. And every year I take a section of the division and go to 10 field day sites. This year we're going Maryland and part of Pennsylvania.
I understand the concept. A lot of people don't understand that to contest, you want to make them as fast and move on. This is not chatting,
One was, I was working field day and I was working phone, and I heard a bunch of Victor stations. So it was like a Victor Echo 3 somebody. And then I said, can I have the other Victor station? I didn't say that. I said, can I have the other Canada station? And it was Victor Kilo 6 something. And he said, I'm not in Canada, I'm in Australia. I said, yeah, I know, thanks. He worked me anyway. So on a field day, you don't expect to work DX, and to get Australia off the back of the beam, I thought was pretty cool.
CQ Field Day, CQ Field Day, Kilo 3 Mike Zulu, Kilo 3 Mike Zulu calling CQ Field Day.
You copy 2A, whatever, and then when you get over here, MDC.
Okay, if you're doing field
now, and then this will cycle.
CQ Field Day, CQ Field Day, Kilo 3 Mike Zulu calling CQ Field Day.
Correct.
Kilo Charlie 2 Mike Oscar Uniform, please copy 3 Alpha Mike Delta Charlie, Maryland, DC, QSL.
This is N3IC if you're calling them, right? You're not going to run CQ probably.
CQ field day and listening.
So this will call N3IC.
The uniform station only. Come again?
So I guess actually the way you're going to do it is.
I think that's one echo. What's your section?
You're going to hear somebody.
Please take my 3.
Kilo 5 Bravo Whiskey Delta. Please take my 3 Alpha Maryland DC. Go ahead.
My mission is to fly the flag and visit field day sites and enjoy the encouragement of individuals and all the excitement that happens at field day.
So I came to Randallstown High School, a new school, and I found out there was interest. So I got the guys together, and Frank and Lee and Bob and others, and we said, let's start a radio club, and they were very enthusiastic about doing that. So we'd have meetings and decide what we're going to do and what we needed and how we're going to fund it. So I was the coordinator, and they did, they did the work. I fought the battles with the administration because they don't want antennas on their roof, but I got that, and we got to sell coffee and stuff at the night school to make money to fund this, and it kept, it kept growing for us, and I knew about Field Day, and one day we had a meeting, and I said, listen, we can't be much of a radio club unless we do Field Day. Of course, Field Day is after this, after the semester was over, I don't know if any of them knew much about it, but I told them what Field Day is. We're going to take our equipment, we're going to, we'll take it somewhere. And the first time, we just took it on the outside of the high school, on tables and things, and set it up. And then, like the next year, we then branched out to one of the state parks where we did it. And as we kept doing it, these guys really got into it. So, we got better and better at it. But we had the whole operation. We had to get the food. We had to build the antennas. We did all of this, from scratch, and started with just one transmitter. And now look what we have here. And so, and then fast forward with Field Day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 years ago we celebrated our, our 40th, and hopefully I'll be here for our 50th in 3 years.
Early on we did it at the school, and then we did a number of years at a park called Gambrels in Maryland, and then I don't remember when, we switched to this park many years ago, 20-some years ago, and we come to this shelter every year. I've been to probably between half and 2/3 of them. Frank and Robert have probably been to every one of them.
One of the things I like about working up here is with my little pistol station at home, I can't hold a frequency and run. Up here, I can hold a frequency and run. So it's the one time a year people call me, I love it.
Our big earners are Robert and Bob, who do the CW, and CW is good because you get 2 points for every Q cell, so it adds up quickly.
Even though it takes a little bit of getting used to the weather, even though this visit we've been blessed. It's not as humid, and it's a lot cooler than some of the other visits. So I'm really looking forward to camping out tonight, and this is my one camp out of the year. This is the only time I ever camp. And I've had a great tent mate all these years, Frank, who was a Boy Scout, so he knows what he's doing.
The biggest secret to many of these contests, including Field Day, is what they call BIC, butt in chair. It's 24 hours of operation. We are running 3 stations plus a GOTA station right now, so 4 stations. So if we can keep those 4 chairs, those 4 stations occupied for 24 hours, we'll get a fairly good score just out of perseverance and working, and we'll be up all night. Many groups aren't as enthusiastic as we are, and will take off for the evening and then come back the next morning, or won't even come back the next morning. So a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just having the energy level and enough people to sort of rotate so you don't burn yourself out. Antennas tend to be the most important link between us and the other stations we're going to work. So it seemed like if we were going to put effort into anything in terms of improving our capability, we had to improve both our skills as contesters, as skills using the radios, and then improve the antennas that we were using. This is the guy wire for the bottom of the tower. And first we'll guide the tower so that we can actually climb the tower and start putting stuff on top of the tower.
This was the old slingshot that we would shoot string over a tree and then pull the string back after we attach a rope to it, then to hoist up the antennas. It was very error prone. Half the time the ball fell out of the pocket before you could let go of the slingshot. A lot of times you would scrape your inside of your forearm because it would hit your arm. It was really problematic. So with this potato launcher, that is pretty much foolproof, right? The potato launcher is pretty much foolproof.
Well, we're fools enough. We're at 60.
I think that's the same one I'm looking at. It's not all the way up. There's still some stuff higher,
Right,
but it looks too
right.
narrow.
Correct.
It's too.
Correct. That's
You
what
wanna
I would
bend
shoot.
this down and I'll
That's what I would shoot.
drop this in.
You go. You shoot the first one.
I get the
You get the
inaugural
honors.
shoot. Okay, let's get some rope going this way. That's where it's going to go.
It's not going to pull me up.
It will.
You don't want to put more out?
Yeah, you got to put a lot more out.
That's what I said. You said I had enough out.
No, you got to.
No, I thought you said you don't know if there's enough string here.
Yeah, pull the whole thing out. And hold on to it because it may.
Well, it's not going to lift me up over the...
It will, and we'll give you the other rope to tie the antenna, will you?
While you're up there, can you...
While you're up. I'll hold it. You just guide it.
I think we're good. Actually. Okay, you ready? You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Nice shot, Frank.
So I've had a focus on putting together those antennas. I can't claim to have a lot of skill in that, but I can claim to have a lot of enthusiasm to try to improve our antennas. And every year we try to incrementally improve some aspect of our antennas for the station. We have the original antenna, the oldest antenna in our group is a 80-meter dipole that's put up by Robert N3IC with his bow and arrow. And that one has probably existed for 30 or 40 years, maybe with some mending of that antenna over time. We also have a 40-meter dipole, and both of those antennas are sort of aimed west. Most of our antennas are aimed west towards the rest of the country. To give us a stronger signal on 40 meters, I built a 40-meter Moxon, which is a 2-element beam that is also aiming west and about probably 50 feet high, aiming out there. And that's the one, it started off being built with PVC pipe. The PVC was a little bit too flexible, and then we hit upon the idea of using bamboo stakes like you might use in the garden. And that's, so that's been up there, but every year just about a piece of the bamboo breaks, and when I come home I have to go fix it. And at this point the garden store is no longer selling bamboo, so I've actually had to borrow my neighbor's bamboo and dry it out and then get it ready for field day the next year. And then we probably 10-15 years ago we bought 2 beam antennas. One is a tri-band beam, so it works on 10, 15, and 20 meters. And we also bought what people call a rocket launcher, AB577, a military mass system that'll go up to 50 feet. And it's supposed to be easily transported by 2 soldiers. However, it takes about 6 of us elder hams to lift that thing and to move it and to try to get it up.
Aren't these like from the Vietnam era? Yeah.
break on.
Break on.
It's not coming down, I can tell you that. It's you two guys that are.
You don't know that it can't come down. You got the gloves.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, got it.
Nice. Okay.
You ready?
Feel a little more steady? Yes.
Break on. Is that the white one?
Yeah.
Blue on this side for some reason. They're all blue on
That's
that
probably
side.
not going to fit over. Okay.
Tension is leaning this way.
Okay, hold off on pushing it. You may be pushing us off.
What do you want to do? Well, it's leaning this way. Just don't let it get away. Wait a minute. Which way? It's leaning towards you need to just keep it from going any further. I think the problem is it's too tight on the top on the red one here. Hold on.
Break on.
This one.
The rocket launcher holds our tri-bander, and then we also have a 20-meter monobander, single band 3-element beam, and both those antennas are both facing west, and we don't rotate them. We just aim in one direction and go with it.
All right, here we go. Pull, Frank. Let it go, Robert. All right, we're good. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. There's another issue there. You got to release that bolt.
I did already.
Thank you.
And we're just keeping it straight.
Paul, Robert. You're good. Whoa. Hey.
Post is coming up. Keep going. Hurry up.
What's happening?
It's pulling up on the bolt here.
What just happened? It's good.
Watch out.
Oh, it's coming down. Down.
Paul, let go. Let go, Paul. We're good.
Sure, this thing's tilted.
Paul, Frank.
Tell me when to stop. I can't see.
Stop. Don't stay.
Are we in the right place?
Okay, it's got to. This has got to come down and then tilt back just to see the stake come out around. I think we'll get it there.
Call the safety officer.
Okay. Is it leaning uphill?
Leaning
uphill?
I don't. It was straight last time I looked. Hang on. It's a little bit uphill.
Leaning uphill a little bit.
Leading uphill. Robert and Frank let go a little. Actually, you're loose enough, Frank. That's good enough. There you go. That's enough. I think we're straight.
Where's your stake for tying it off? Where's the stake?
Robert, you need to pull a little bit.
And there's a hammer there too.
Pull a little more. Good.
Which way's the
Right about there. And hang on, it needs to be 45 degrees that way. Yeah.
But VHF is really where most of my emergency communications has happened. On September 14th, 2001, I was at the Pentagon because they needed some communication support. I was supporting the Salvation Army, who had the job of feeding everyone. And so there were about 1,000 police officers there, some with FBI, NTSB, and all that. Then you had other police officers from Fairfax County, Arlington County. There were 500 construction workers who were trying to shore up the building. And then there were 500 search and rescue and fire departments and stuff. And so I was working with the Salvation Army, making sure everyone could get fed. It was interesting. Once you got onto the grounds, you were cleared, and then everything was open to you, including a portable McDonald's and a portable Burger King right across from each other. You could just walk up and they would hand you whatever you wanted. There were buckets and buckets of Gatorade and water everywhere. There was, Walmart sent a truck of just stuff, underwear, clothes, whatever people needed. And Home Depot sent a truck of building materials that they could use. The traffic, the other thing that was noticed is that the Marines were bivouacked in the parking lot. And they had set up their generators, which created a lot of RF noise. And then they had their frequencies beaming into the opening. We actually lined up right in front where that jet went in, and it was still smoking. You could still smell the smoke. And the RF environment was extremely busy that day. So in my earphone, I was hearing zip, 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 zip. And then the traffic was simply, Station 4 needs 100 chicken dinners, or Station 2 needs more water, that kind of stuff. So that's what I was relaying for them. And then one of the things I saw when I first came in were some dogs resting under a tree. And then I got cleared, and I saw the dogs come in with their handler. And they were these special search and rescue dogs to look for the people who were still alive. So I talked to the handler. I said, how are the dogs taking this? And he said, the dogs are getting very depressed because everybody they found was deceased. So what they ended up doing was getting some of the search and rescue people to lie down, and the dogs could find them alive, and they were good. Towards evening, the dogs came out, and I heard a call over the radio, were there any dog treats available for them? And sure enough, in one of those Walmart trucks, there were dog treats, and the dogs got their treats. But it was amazing to see also the urban search and rescue people. These are the guys that can go into a torn up or a building that's fallen down and rappel into zones and get into places to save people. And they were there, and they were amazing. Also in 9/11, I think the amateurs were more essential up in New York, because when the tower came down with the antenna, it wiped out comm in lower Manhattan. And so within, I think, 3 to 4 hours, amateurs had a net up and were handling the health and welfare traffic, so getting people who were very seriously injured help. And then later on, they were handling, in the next day or so, the I'm alive messages, where people would come in and they would send messages out to their loved ones that they were still alive and everything was okay. So that was much more essential.
There's a lot of great guys. They're almost like a second family. I mean, I only see them once a year, but they're great guys, and I'd hang out with them outside of work if I could. But great guys to talk to and hang out with.
Yeah. I lived out on the West Coast for about 5 years, and I did fly here, I think twice. And Gordon lives out in California now, and he flies here every year. I live in North Carolina now, so I drive up. It's nominally a 6-hour drive, but I left this morning about 8, and it took me over 9 hours with all the traffic.
It's the Randallstown Amateur Radio Club. They started when Drew, their chemistry teacher, got them interested in amateur radio and had their first field day in '71. I'm a Johnny-come-lately. I've only been doing this since '98, so this is my 20th consecutive year with them. What got me interested in amateur radio is I was commuting, and I decided that books on tape were getting a little boring, so I decided I would try to amateur radio, and I had some very interesting conversations on repeaters that talked about Linux. They talked about other kinds of, I thought, interesting topics, mostly apolitical, which also was nice, and pretty technical. And I got interested in that, and then my wife and Frank's wife were roommates outside of college, and we got together, and Frank helped me a lot. And then he invited me to this first field day in '98 for me, and I enjoyed it. And ever since then, Frank and I have been doing a lot to put these things together. Frank's the antenna master. I was only a phone operator at first, and then the sunspots went away, and I decided that CW was a poor man's amp. And so I learned CW, and now I'm one of the 3 CW ops here, and I enjoy that a lot.
And one of the really neat things about the hobby is I've met really bright people through it. So I've been really enjoying the unfortunately limited contact that I still have with ham radio, but the people in it are really bright and accomplished. But the guys want to win, but we don't kill ourselves to make it happen.
I think the friendship aspects of amateur radio is really something that, you know, we're not doing this, we're doing this because we're enthusiastic and we enjoy doing it, but it's also an activity where we have friendships, and the friendships that are built together. Mike King and I and several of the other people in the club get on during the year in a schedule that we, you know, weekly or bi-weekly, will talk to each other. So we get to stay in contact. This is a way that we can stay in contact with high school friends, a way we can stay in contact with college friends. During the weekly schedule, when we have a phone schedule, there's 4 people that were in my freshman dorm on my floor that I still talk to during this schedule. So the ability to stay in contact, it's not because you couldn't contact each other through email or texting or phone calls even, but it sort of creates a hobby, a camaraderie around a common hobby that gives you this possibility of continuing the friendships and checking in and finding out how their family is doing and how their children are doing and what's happening in their lives. And I think that friendship is probably the most important aspect of ham radio.
We started back in 1970. So we lived in a town called Randallstown, Maryland, and a bunch of us were at Old Court Junior High School, and we knew each other and were kind of interested then. But Randallstown High School opened the year we went into 10th grade. And Drew Wolf was our chemistry teacher. We were all taking chemistry from him. And so, you know, we started this amateur radio club, and Drew was our advisor. And at the time, I thought like Drew was a grown-up, you know, and I realized now that we were 15 and he was 25. You know? So seemed like it was like that back then, but you know, now it's like that. And you know, we've been doing it ever since.
Well, in general, it's going downhill and it's going to die out because it's mainly with us old people, young people. I was a professor my entire career, so I would tell students, well, I'm going up to Maryland and I'm going to go to field day and it's amateur radio, and it was, you know, I might as well have been talking to that wall because they don't know. They have a cell phone. Why would you want to do that? I can call Thailand or I can call anywhere I want. So they don't see the need or why you would want to spend all of this time. Of course, this is the height of being a nerd or a geek or whatever, and that's how we're viewed.
It's hard to attract new people. A few years ago, I was able to get a couple of neighbors who were teenagers at the time to get their licenses, right? And they still have it to this day. Michael and Jeffrey Cooper, KG4LGI and KM4MAC. A lot of them today are more interested in assured communications, so they like texting and they like email and they like other and WhatsApp and all those other kinds of assured communications. They did admire the ability to get on the air and operate in emergency situation, and that held their interest for a little bit, but they're young men now and other things are attracting their interest.
I don't see how you can light a fire because, you know, people, you actually go to a park and set all this stuff up. Isn't that a lot of work? And what do you get for it? Actually, my grandsons, who are 10 and soon to be 7, I told them, I said, well, we set up this radio equipment as a contest. So they're kids, contest, what do you win if you win the contest? Well, you don't win anything. You win the satisfaction of being able to, say, well, I won our group. And that was it. And they're not like that.
It's got to be fun and it's got to be cool. Another co-worker who isn't here, but he's been in a lot of the other KG4NXZ, Wes Gurney, I got him interested through working with him, and he's come out to many a field day. So he's youngish. He's, I think, in his early 40s now. I think we just have to show people its usefulness. I just don't know how to convince parents that an amateur radio is more powerful than a cell phone, and if your daughter ever is in trouble, the amateurs will go out of their way to help her.
I tried to attract my kids, especially my sons, as sexist as that sounds, but they really were not interested. And they're both engineering kind of people. One is a mechanical engineer and one is a computer science guy. But they just didn't get hooked by it. And I think some of it is because communications is so easy and essentially free now. I think that aspect wasn't very exciting to them. And both of them were interested in building things, but they built other things. One of my kids built one of the early 3D printers from an open source project, and the two of them built an electric go-kart. And so they were doing those kind of hands-on building thing projects anyway. So they just never really got excited by it.
The people in the hobby are getting old. If you look at the statistics, ever since personal computers came out, the number of people that have been involved and interested in the hobby have sort of decreased. Recently there's been an uptick as they've reduced some of the licensing requirements to try to get younger people and others in. It turns out that most of the new people that are coming in seem to be people that are recently retired that are looking for a new hobby and find amateur radio to be something interesting that they would have done when they were younger but didn't have a chance to do.
This is a spectacular time to be involved in amateur radio, and after Field Day weekend, I realize how exciting and how alive and well amateur radio is.
We have to figure out how to attract the next generation.
It's kind of interesting though. Anecdotally, I've felt that it's a bunch of old guys generally, but I mentioned that I got relicensed when I was out on the West Coast. I took the exam and got relicensed. I was actually surprised to see some young boys taking the test when I did. So there must be some young people who are going into it, and I don't know if they stay or what, but I was pleasantly surprised to see some young boys taking the exam when I was taking it.
It's a heck of a lot of fun. There's so many different venues in amateur radio today, from satellites to digital to HF. Just there's something for everyone, and grab the handle, get franchise, and jump in. The water's good.